God will not elevate you if what you are pushing out in the form of your content and your message is not in alignment with what God stands for and represents. So if you glorifying murder, if you glorifying drug dealing, using drugs, disrespecting women, and you're experiencing elevation, that's not coming from God, partner.
My name is Detavio Samuels, and welcome to the Blackprint, where I sit with the innovators, disruptors, and change makers. My guests open up about every step of their journey and share lessons learned along the way to provide creators, entrepreneurs, and executives with a tangible blueprint for navigating to the top of their industry. This is the Blackprint. Welcome to the Blackprint. If you've been here before, you know we start every show the same way with my favorite quote. Everybody sees you on the mountaintop. Not everybody sees you on the climb. This is the show where we talk to the ceiling breakers, the disruptors, the innovators about their climb to the top. And today I am so thrilled, I'm so honored and so humbled to have my brother Dee-1 here with me today. What's good, King?
Man, I'm great.
It's good to have you, man. Look, here at REVOLT, we believe that everybody should be able to control their own narrative, own their own narrative. So instead of me introducing you, my first ask is going to be for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Of course. REVOLT, thank y'all for having me. My name is Dee-1, DEE-1. And on the totem pole of identity, let me break it down for you. All the way at the top of that totem pole, I'm a man of God before anything else. So get that right? Underneath that, I'm a proud black man, right? Underneath that, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. And underneath that, all the things I do professionally is I'm a rapper. I'm a hip hop artist. I'm talking about make some of the best music you'll ever hear in your life. And in addition to that, I'm using hip hop culture in the form of education to make this world better. So I'm a proud college professor at Tufts University. I'm a hip hop fellow at Harvard University. I'm an author of an anti-bullying hip hop children's book called David Found His Slingshot. I'm a public speaker. I'm an entrepreneur, but you got to know the order of all those things. So the order that I just stated everything in, that's what it is. And all the professional stuff I just named, that's what I do, but that's not the extent of who I am. So hopefully today you get to know more about who I am.
So now y'all know who the man is today. What I want to do is go all the way back to the beginning. Can you help us understand your origin story? What was life like for Dee-1 growing up?
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, and growing up in New Orleans is like growing up in heaven and hell at the same time. I literally experienced some of the best parts of life, the most joy, the best culture, the best food, the deepest, most passionate love that a human could ever want. But then it's like hell in certain ways. It's the poorest state. It's the murder capital many years when I was growing up in a row, just the murder capital of the country. And you experience this heartbreak and this heaven at the same time. And what it creates is this balance to where you're resilient because you're either going to give up at that point or you're going to keep going and persevere through it. And I'm here because I'm a champion. I'm a survivor. And thankfully, those scars that I experienced early on, they didn't make me bitter or negative, right? They made me say, how can I make my environment be a product of me instead of me becoming a product of my environment?
I think it's so unique that you had that, just the framing, heaven and hell. My question for you is for anybody else who has grown up in heaven and hell, who is growing up in heaven and hell right now, any words of advice for how they can do what you've done, which is break into new limits and become the man that you want to be?
Absolutely. So the first thing I would say is don't waste your pain. All of your pain has a purpose. So all those sleepless nights, all of that time that you were paranoid, that you were frustrated, that you were sad, that you were crying, man, that pain has a purpose because once you persevere through the most extenuating circumstances, you've now become an expert on how to get through that. And now that you're an expert, you have a role, you have an identity that's been shaped based on what you went through. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful for people. When you realize that your pain has a purpose, it makes it easier to go through it.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of an analogy of like diamonds, right? Diamonds start out as coal, right? And through the hottest fire, they become diamonds. And it's almost like people have a choice. You can either just stay in the coal or you can let the fire burn you, mold you, shape you, refine you into the diamond that you're supposed to be.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And people don't realize that you become an expert on whatever you have persevered through. You literally become an expert once you've gotten through it. Yeah. So when you're an expert, it's like, oh, I have an obligation to help the people coming behind me because of what I learned. I have to be able to tell that to them. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was able to encapsulate a lot of the pain that I felt growing up. A lot of, more so than feeling pain, I would say I always felt a sense of imposter syndrome, like I wasn't good enough to be considered for this opportunity or in this room or for this job position or something like that. And that imposter syndrome led to a sense of like self-worth that might have looked good from the outside, but on the inside, I was really somebody who was always just looking for, praying for validation from others, right? And that really plagued me throughout my childhood. I think it started in fourth grade. Started in fourth grade. I know it did.
Talk to me about it. Okay, talk to me. Because I was going to ask, how did you did young Dee-1 already have an idea of how he wanted to turn that pain into purpose?
Not at all, man. I can't remember any significant pain before like my fourth grade year, right? Because anything that I felt, it was just lightweight stuff. It was all good. But in fourth grade, I had such a profound dream that I wanted to be the president of the United States.
Okay.
And I shared that with my friends. I shared that with my family. And everybody big up to me. Everybody was like, oh, yeah, you can do that. All right. When I told my teacher, who I really looked up to at the time, I told her I wanted to be the president. I remember to this day, D, she laughed at me in front of the whole class. And she told me, she said, David, you should pick a different profession because you're not going to have what it takes to be the president. And she told me that. And whether or not she meant to hurt me or crush my dreams, man, that did something to my self-image to where I started to all of a sudden feel like, man, let me not even dream big anymore, because if somebody comes along and crushes that dream just like this teacher did, like this stuff feels so defeating and so deflating that I don't want to feel that. So I'm just going to dream to the level that my environment will approve of, you know?
How did you end up breaking out of that? Because I fundamentally believe that, like, if you show me a person's dream, I can tell you what they can accomplish. If you dream small dreams, you're going to accomplish small things. If you dream big dreams, then you give yourself the opportunity. How did you get from a place of being now locked into or confined into these smaller dreams? How did you break out of that?
Right. It was tough. For a long time, it was tough. I remember going through middle school and high school, and whatever my friends said they wanted to be when they grew up, I would say the same thing, just so I could fit in with them, and I wouldn't have to experience that rejection of somebody saying, wait, what? What you trying to do? Like, oh, you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough for that. Just like it was a teacher and an educator that crushed my first big dream, it was also a teacher and an educator that helped me be able to dream big again. But it wasn't until I got to college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went to LSU, and it was one of my professors. He was my Black history professor named Dr. Leonard Moore, right? And he really was the first person to see that if I wanted to be a hip hop artist, that I could use that industry and that profession to actually still be an educator, be a powerful, dynamic leader. And when we were learning about Malcolm and Martin and all the great Black leaders of the past, he was the first person that made me realize that I could do that inside the realm of hip hop. So when he affirmed me and he gave me the first opportunity in my life to perform on a stage, man, he threw me such an alley-oop. I got to open up for Miss Afeni Shakur.
Oh, beautiful.
She came to our campus to do a speaking engagement. Okay. So the campus was packed. Everybody wanted to see Miss Afeni, speak. And Dee-1, a young Dee-1, gets to open up and perform a few songs before she comes to the stage, right? So when I did that performance, Miss Afeni came up to me afterwards and pulled me to the side. And she said, young man, your passion on that stage reminds me of my son when he used to perform.
Bro, how did that feel, though?
I got goosebumps now, bro. Literally just thinking about it. Literally. That gave me the confidence that I was lacking ever since fourth grade. That I have a dream now, and I have been affirmed by people who mean a lot to me. Miss Afeni, Dr. Moore. You know what? I'm gonna keep going. So even when it gets tough, I have the cosign of two people who matter a whole lot to me.
Yeah.
And I needed that confidence because getting into the rap game, I think rap is the most desired profession amongst young black men and women nowadays, right? Everybody wants to rap. So you're going to hear no from so many angles, and you're going to hear people telling you that you're not good enough, that you have to have an abnormal amount of confidence in yourself. You have to have a self-belief that doesn't come from just your peers. It has to come from above, you know? And my relationship with God made it to where I was able to figure out the formula, like, oh, I don't want to be successful if God is not at the forefront of my success. Because I actually look at success as something to where a lot of people are being elevated by the devil. And they think they're successful because they're experiencing elevation. And that's what I prayed against. The first bars I ever spit, D, on the first project I ever put out, people could look it up. I said, if I ain't supposed to rap, God, please let me know. But if I'm supposed to rap, God, please let me blow. If I don't sell a lot of records, I ain't stressing. If I don't blow here, I'm going platinum in heaven. You heard me?
Amen. How do you know the difference? How do you know the difference between being elevated by God and light or being elevated by darkness?
Yes, it's very easy. God will not elevate you if what you are pushing out in the form of your content and your message is not in alignment with what God stands for and represents. So if you glorifying murder, if you glorifying drug dealing, using drugs, disrespecting women, and you're experiencing elevation, that's not coming from God, partner. You heard me? All of y'all who want to get up there and thank God for this, you thanking God, but ain't none of your music godly. That's what that is, an oxymoron? Yeah, that don't make no sense, bro. That's a contradiction. That's what it is, you know? But it's because we are all like godly people at the core of who we are. So people want to be able to involve God somehow in their ascension and in their success. But man, you got to call a spade at a certain point. Some of these people, they doing the devil's work, but they giving the glory to God for the elevation. And it's like, it's very tough, man. They say that the road to hell is paved in gold. And I feel like it's paved in gold and platinum. Because in the music industry, you go platinum, you go gold. That's a sign that you're making it. But you're making it well. Think about what you're glorifying, you know? And you got a team of yes men around you who are profiting off of your success. So they're not going to tell you any different. Even if they know, like, dang, you on a pathway to hell. You're on a pathway to jail. You're on a pathway to the graveyard. But we ain't gonna say nothing because we getting our commission off of the money you making.
So now I need to know about your team then. Who is your team? Clearly you don't have a team of yes men. Right? So who's your team? How did you decide who your circle is? Who you would surround yourself with as you were doing this journey?
Well, I didn't have anything to offer people. So the people who simply believed in my talent and believed in who David was first and foremost, that's who I was like, I need to be around them because I have nothing to offer them. I wasn't making money at first. You know, I remember the early performances that I would do. I would set up a card table, you know, in the back of the venue afterwards, and I would sell my CDs. Man, those proceeds from CD sales, that was to get gas money to go home. That was to be able to eat off the dollar menu that night at McDonald's. You feel me? So the people who still chose to believe in me, like, I almost wanted to be so bold about what I stood for that it would repel the wrong people away from me. Because when you kind of wishy-washy and lukewarm, people like, yeah, I think I could mold that man into what I want him to be. And I didn't want anybody to feel like they could mold me because this is my life. This is my purpose. You heard me? This ain't a career for me. This is a calling. So people who understood that, and they understood that he's on a mission and we're here to play a role in that mission that he is on from God, that's the people that I deemed like, yeah, you worthy of being on the team.
So you get the blessing, you get the cosign from Miss Shakur. What do you do with that? What is the next steps? Where do you go from there?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Miss Afeni, she didn't teach me how to make money off of my music, right? So she taught me how to know that I had something special and how to keep rocking those crowds, right? But when it came time to graduate, I was staring student loan debt in the face. I was staring real bills in the face. And it was like, man, I gotta man up. I can't be like, I just want to be a rapper, so I'm gonna ignore all my adult responsibilities to be out here rapping. So I got a real job, man.
Okay, what was that job?
I was a middle school math teacher.
Okay.
Mr. Augustine. For real.
How did you land that job?
Man, all right. I landed that job thanks to the custodian at the school, right? When I first graduated, man, I had a shirt, tie on, looking fresh. I went up to the school with my resume, wanted to speak to the principal, right? The secretary at the time was like, we don't have any job openings. The principal's not available. Sorry, try another school, right? But I didn't really feel her energy towards me. I was like, man, she just has a dismissive vibe towards me. I want to speak to the man himself. And if he tells me that, all good, I'll keep it moving, right? So I kind of walked out the office feeling dejected that day. I had my head hanging low. And a lady named Miss Minnie, she was the custodian, the janitor at the school. She said, young man, she said, you too handsome to be looking like that. Why you look so down? What's wrong? I said, ma'am, I'm just a fresh college graduate, just got my degree from LSU. I'm trying to be a teacher, but the secretary was being real rude, real mean towards me. She was like, we don't have any openings. No, the principal's busy. You can't meet with him. Right? I walked out the office. My head was hanging down. Miss Minnie walked up to me, the janitor. She said, young man, she said, you too handsome to be looking like that. What's wrong with you? What's the matter? I said, I'm just trying to get a job. I just graduated college, but the secretary being real rude. I'm trying to meet with the principal. She said, come here. She said, he gets here at 6:45 every morning. He drives a black Jaguar. She said, if you get here tomorrow morning at about 6:30, he parks right there in the parking lot. That's his spot. She said, you can meet him as soon as he parks and on his way walking in the door. So she gave me the low. Yeah. She dropped the location. You hear me? So I was like, bet. Man, I came back the next morning. Right on time, 6:45 a.m. He pulled into that parking spot, and it was just me and him. I met him on his way walking into the door, and I told him who I was and what I wanted to do. I'm a young brother, just graduated college. I like to be a teacher, right? Mm-hmm. He said, young man, we don't have any openings, but I love your spirit. I love your energy. And you're a young black man who these young black students need to see in the classroom. I'm going to create a position for you at this school.
Oh, beautiful.
This brother created a position for me that didn't even exist.
Okay, what position was that?
So the first year that I taught, I was a life skills teacher. Literally, he allowed me to design the curriculum. He was like, these students need life skills. They need conflict resolution skills. They need better study habits. They need to understand how to tap into their gifts and discover their passions. They're in middle school right now. So he created that position. I created the curriculum.
How did you create that curriculum? Meaning it doesn't sound like you went to school to become an educator, right? So how do you develop and how do you design that curriculum that you're now teaching these middle school students?
Well, I thought about what I needed when I was in middle school that I didn't have. Man, we used to get in fights over stuff like people stepping on our shoes. We didn't have conflict resolution skills. We didn't have people who allowed us to tap into what our personal gifts and passions were. We had people saying, well, this person is successful by being an engineer, so y'all should try to be an engineer. This person is successful by being a doctor. Y'all should try to be a doctor. We had people pushing us in certain directions as opposed to helping us to look within. Mm-hmm. So I designed the curriculum to be what I never had. And that's why my students, they connected with me on a level that they couldn't connect with a lot of their other teachers on. And it's because I entered the classroom as a human being, and I was transparent about my struggles and about my joys. And it just allowed the students to say, we can put our guard down because we know that Mr. Augustine loves us. And since he loves us, we're going to give him our best effort. And that's all you can ask from students, for them to give you their best effort. So that was my time as a teacher. And I had a secret that I wasn't telling anybody though, which was when I get off of school every day at 3 p.m., I change clothes. I put my rapping clothes on, and I hit the streets, and I'm promoting my music because I have this other passion of being a hip hop artist that I've been doing since college, but I didn't really see how I could fit that into the classroom with me. So I had like these two identities, right? A lot of people can relate to this because they have their 9 to 5, but they have
that side hustle.
And that side hustle is their real passion. They feel like that's their purpose, but they haven't figured out how to monetize it yet. I was that dude. I was that dude that had both of those things going. So ultimately, my principal gave me an ultimatum. This man made me choose. Are you going to be a rapper or are you going to be an educator? I was like, why can't I be both? because I love both and I see how I can make an impact doing both. But he didn't understand how an educator could incorporate hip hop into what they do. He thought all hip hop was negative, right? I was like, man, if you're going to force my hand, I'm going to choose to be a rapper. And I just have the heart of a teacher, but the platform of a rapper. That's going to allow me to teach the masses at that point.
What gave you the confidence? Like the teacher piece is how you're paying your bills. What gave you the confidence to say, I'm going to walk away from the thing that's paying my bills and go chase this dream that you have not yet figured out how to monetize?
I had crazy abnormal faith. I wasn't materialistic, so I wasn't overspending, right? So I made $39,000 a year as a teacher before taxes.
Right.
So after taxes, it was looking rough. But I was still able to save money because I didn't overspend, right? So I had a little nest egg when I stopped teaching to start rapping full time. I had a little nest egg. And for about 18 months, I had to figure out how to turn my passion into a profitable profession.
Yeah.
How to turn that passion into a profitable profession. That paycheck was something where I had opportunities to turn it into quick paychecks, but it would have caused me to compromise my morals, right? I had a lot of people saying, D, man, if you just start cursing in your music, bro, I could get you a deal so quick. You a good looking dude. You from New Orleans. You could really spit. You lyrical, but you got to give people more what they want to hear. I had to turn some deals down. I literally had to say no.
What did it feel like walking away, not having an incoming paycheck, seeing opportunities that were asking you to be someone different, but you turning them down? How did it feel back then?
Well, you got to know what comes first, your purpose or your paycheck. I know my purpose always comes before my paycheck. So if I take the paycheck over my purpose, it'll make me a slave to that paycheck. You heard me? And that right there, that's the highway to hell right there, man. You become a slave to that money. So my purpose was something to where I knew if I stayed diligent, if I stayed prayed up, it would eventually pay me. It would eventually provide for me. But when you're saying no actively to money that's being offered to you, you honestly got to know, hey, God is involved in my pursuits and my endeavors right now. If I didn't have God involved in my purpose, then I don't see how I could have turned down those paychecks, you know? But it's like, I know God got a plan for me. Even if I don't know what it is, I'm just going to handle my biz at the time. And I know that, man, it's going to work out. I seen too many people who always took the paycheck over the purpose, and it never ended well for them. You know, it was always temporary satisfaction. So I knew this back then, and I think the reason why I knew it is because I have a family to where no one in my family has been considered wealthy, right? No one in my family had these get-rich-quick schemes that actually worked for them, that they tried to get me to follow. Man, I come from a family of blue-collar workers, man. My daddy, he a welder, you heard me? My grandpa, he was a plasterer, you heard me? Like, I got people who are janitors in the family. I got people who, you know, clean people's swimming pools for a living. Like, people who work with their hands, they sweat, you heard me? My mama, she's a social worker. Like, I seen my mama graduate college while I was in school. She used to go to night classes. And so she used to have me and my little sister sitting outside the classroom, right? While she was in there getting her college degree and we working on our homework. So I seen my mama work for this, man. Because I seen my people just make an honest living my whole life, I was just like, hey, if worst case scenario happens, I can always go back to being a teacher. So if I want to make it, the success in the rap game has to be something that has integrity at the core of it. And that's why I was able to say no to some of the quick success and fame and money that was being offered to me.
You keep mentioning and talking a lot about your faith, right? Like, I'm a firm believer that, you know, a lot of us who grew up in the church or with religion, we're performing or doing our parents' or our mother's version, our father's version of religion. At what point in time did your relationship, your faith, become D1's faith?
Yes. When I got out of my mama's house.
Okay.
That's when my faith had to become my own, because nobody was making me go to church. Nobody was making me read the Bible or pray at that point. Man, freshman year in college, slapped me in the face, bro. In 1 year, you heard me? I got cut from the college basketball team when I tried out. My girlfriend from high school ended up cheating on me with a few football players when we got to college. Broke my heart. First time I experienced heartbreak. One of my best friends in New Orleans got murdered. I got the text message in the middle of English class telling me he had got murdered for nothing too. And then lastly, my roommate at the time in college started selling drugs out of our dorm room. So we ended up falling out. So all these things that I had surrounded myself with that helped build my identity of why I felt just confident in who I was, they all got stripped from me. Whoosh, you ain't a star basketball player no more. Whoosh, that ain't your old lady no more. Whoosh, that ain't your best friend no more. Y'all done fell out. Whoosh, that ain't your clique no more. You know, y'all done fell out as well. Man, feeling empty is something that some of us need to go through in order to say, what can I build my foundation on that will never forsake me? And that was when I realized, like, everything in this world is temporary. Everything. Our relationships with human beings, temporary. Our job positions, temporary. Even the money that we make, temporary. The only thing that's going to be everlasting is our Creator, God, and His love for us, to where there's so much that we're not in control of. We think that if we eat healthy and go to the gym every day, oh, that means I'm going to live a long life. Man, when somebody is driving in their car, if they turn their steering wheel 2 inches to the right, they'll veer into your lane and it could be a head-on collision. And that's every day of your life that you're alive. You feel me? Regardless of how much you work out, man, these bodies are so complex, bro, that they could just stop and malfunction like that, and that'd be a wrap. When you truly realize how fragile life is and how much we're not in control of, then you better get on the same team as the one who is in ultimate control of everything, and that's God. That clicked to me just like a math equation when I was a freshman in college. Like, man, what am I doing if I'm more loyal to my friends or my girl or this sport or this money than I am to my Creator? Man, I got life twisted, man. So that's when I made that transition.
Do you remember how, like, the steps you took or the process you took to go build your own relationship with God? I get the moment. I get the catalyst that happened. Do you remember the steps where you said, okay, now I got to go chase him for myself?
For sure. So building a relationship came along with being around other people who had a stronger relationship with Him than me, so I could learn from them. The same way we do internships and we want to be an apprentice to other people professionally, I had to be a spiritual apprentice. Man, how you so confident, bro? How you so close with God? Like, what do you do? Let me be around y'all, you know? And being around people with strong relationships with God showed me that, oh, we have to study God's word. The same way we study for a test, the same way we read a script if we're actors or actresses, man, we got to study God's word. So studying God's word, reading the actual Bible, made it to where now I'm understanding the context for why these stories are written like this, because it's giving me instructions on how to apply these lessons to my life on a daily basis. Now I have direction, you know, because you're right. Just saying I believe in God with no direction and no relationship with God, it is such a vague, just proclamation to make. I believe in God. God, I just want to be closer to you. So me studying God's word and being around people who already had a closer relationship with God, that really gave me direction as to, like, oh, here's how you grow spiritually strong. You know, we know how to grow strong in the gym, and we know the exercises to do. I simply had to apply that mindset to my spiritual life. And as it started to work, I started to view the world different. I started to handle situations differently, because I would ask myself something like, well, what would Jesus do in this situation? You know, not what would the streets do, or what would my favorite rapper do, or what would my family member do. I started to ask myself, what do I want to do with my limited time here on this earth? And then it started to become so obvious. Man, do whatever you can do that's going to make God proud, because God created you. So if you're making your mama proud, but you're not making God proud, that's a contradiction. If you're making your hood proud, or if you're making your ego proud, but you're not making God proud, that doesn't line up. So now all of a sudden, I started to say, whoa, so I have to figure out how to utilize my gifts and my passions to make God proud. All of a sudden, I stopped being so selfish, thinking that these are my gifts. Because if you leave it up to me, I'm going to do some stuff with these gifts that's going to be very self-serving and very much something that is shaped by the world culture, right? But the world's culture has been contaminated with capitalism, with people saying, if you do, corruption, like if you do this, then I'll give you that. But why would I want anything from the world when whatever the world can offer me, God can offer me 1,000 times that? You feel me? So it was just a mentality shift over time. And that all of this is happening right when I'm starting to rap as a college student. So it makes sense that I started to say, I can do music that's actually going to make a difference in this world, but that God can also be proud of and involved in. And that right there became the only option for me. So now when I have a little record label that's offering me a $10,000 advance, or offering me, a section in the club, or just to be able to drive one of their cars around town, that stuff, I was just like, that don't even appeal to, it don't even hit the same as if I had no spiritual direction. Because of my spiritual direction, what I'm focused on is, can anyone who I work with down here help me fulfill the purpose that God has for my life and for my talent? And if not, then hey, no love lost, but I gotta go a different direction.
When is that first win? When is the first win where, in the music business, your spirituality, your gifts, your alignment with God all come together and work out? When's that first win?
Yeah, I would say my first big win as an artist was the first time I went viral. It was a music video called J50 and Wheezy, right? I had been teaching middle school and seeing how much my students were impacted by their favorite rappers. One of my students came in class, he had a tattoo on his arm that said M-O-B. That stands for money over B-I-T-C-H's. I asked that young brother, man, what made you get that tattoo? Because you're in middle school and you just got that tattooed on you. You know what that means, right? And he looked at me, he said, no, sir, what does it mean? He ain't even know what it meant, D. He ain't even know what it meant. And I said, why would you get that tatted on you then? And it's because his favorite rapper, Lil Wayne, has it tattooed on his chest. And he was simply emulating who he looked up to. So when I saw how much my students were impacted by hip hop, it caused me to do this song where the big three at the time, just like Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, I was like, what if I could talk to the big three and truly ask them, are y'all aware of the way that the youth looks up to y'all and tries to emulate y'all? One of my students just got a tattoo because of the tattoo you got on your chest. Are y'all aware and do y'all care?
And that second question is real.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I did this song, J50 and Wheezy, it was like a fictional conversation that I was having with them at a round table where I was talking to Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and Lil Wayne. We shot a music video for it. There's a testimony in even this music video. I did the song 18 months before we shot the music video, right? And what I mean is, when I first did the song, I put it out and nothing happened. 18 months passed. I had moved on to a new album, new songs, but something in my spirit kept telling me, D, that J50 and Weezy song is special. Shoot a video to it. Everybody around me was like, man, that song is old now. Like, that song been out. Why you want to shoot a video to that? I had this little voice in my spirit that kept saying, man, shoot a video to that song. When we shot that music video, within 1 week, I had gone viral, gotten millions of views, and was the talk of the music industry. That video took me from being a local artist in New Orleans to being on a national radar, and that changed my life. That was the first big win.
The first big win. Okay, so so you go viral. What's the next big win?
Next big win is I'm getting offered record deals.
Okay.
By my childhood heroes, Cash Money Records.
Okay.
Man, I grew up looking up to these dudes, man, listening to all their music. Man, them people wanted to sign me, fly me out to Miami. I'm having meetings with them. I'm in the studio, offer me a record deal. And I had to turn it down. Because
still didn't align with your spirit.
It didn't align with my spirit, man. It would have been me putting the paycheck before the purpose.
Again, yep.
I could clearly see that we were on two different missions. What's the name of their label? Cash Money Records. That's what they putting before everything. Me, I'm like, I want the cash money after I get the God fulfillment. Once I get once God is involved in it, and once God is getting the glory and the fulfillment, then of course I love to get paid, but it don't come before, I don't put the bag before the purpose. I don't put the bag before God ever. So that was a big moment for me to have the opportunity to financially change my life, but to say no because I knew that there was something greater that God had for me.
Yeah, it's a consistent theme in your life, this idea that your purpose and your assignment is what matters most, right?
Yes.
And if it's not tied into that, if it's not locked into that, you're willing to move on, right?
Yes.
I know one of the big things that happens after that is I think you get signed to RCA, and you also get to do the BET Cypher. Which one came first?
Yeah, I signed to RCA.
Okay,
first.
you signed to RCA. Okay, so what makes you sign with RCA? So you said no over and over and over and over again. What makes you finally get to a yes with RCA?
Because the staff at RCA at the time was like, we don't want to change you at all. We see that you are a disruptor. You are doing things your way. You're not following the rules, and it's working for you. Stay like that. We just want to help add more fuel to that fire. That was music to my ears. So I said, cool, let me sign. And I signed with them, and a lot of that was lies. Yeah, a lot of that was lies, man. A lot of that was lies. I learned that once you get signed, it's like you've made it to the top of one totem pole as an independent artist. But then when you get signed, you're now at the bottom of this new totem pole as a signed artist, right? And for me, working with the staff was something where I knew that I had to have their support inside the building in order for me to become a priority. Because there's so many artists on the label. So I had to have their support. And that's when I started to see, man, you just got people who, this is just a job for them. This ain't a calling. There's no deeper purpose in this. So some people, I just knew that they didn't really believe in me from the beginning. The guy that signed me believed in me, but people on the staff, they didn't really believe in me. So it was always, once again, something I got away from doing, D, which was, man, I'm out of the business of having to go above and beyond to get the validation of people. If you don't believe in me, like my 4th grade teacher, if you don't believe in me, all good. I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to pivot, right? But I couldn't pivot because I had paperwork. You can't pivot when you got that paperwork. You feel me? You pivot and you're like, dang, I'm in the same place. Pivot, dang, I'm still signed to y'all tomorrow. Dang, I tore the contract up. It didn't matter. I'm still signed. We got it in the system, you know? So that was a season where it looked real good from the outside. Everybody was like, man, you made it. Like, you signed with a major label. You literally made it, D. And I knew that internally I was feeling conflicted. I was feeling empty. I was feeling not supported. And that's tough when you're constantly smiling to people on the outside and you smiling like, yeah, that's me. I'm him. Yeah. But on the inside, you're like, man, it's chaotic, and it feels honestly very empty internally. And that's how I was feeling.
How did you end up getting out?
Well, the way I got out of my deal was, it was straight God. I went through a couple tough things. One was, I got selected for the BET Cypher, right? So I'm signed. I'm on the BET Hip Hop Awards Cypher. I'm thinking, man, this night is going to change my whole life. Millions of people about to see me. Leading up to the Cypher, though, I got all these people in my ear telling me, man, you need to rap like this. Man, you need to wear this. Man, you need to come across like this. This your one shot, bro. You can't blow this, you know. Nah, that ain't good enough. Write something else. And I got all these voices, right, that I'm listening to. And I stopped listening to that voice inside of me that has always guided me the right direction when I say, what would God be pleased with? I got away from listening to that voice. So I got all these other voices in my ear. And I end up going on the Cypher. And I spit my 16 bars, I do my thing, and nothing changed that night. Nothing changed, bro. Woke up the next day, had a few thousand more followers, but nothing changed.
Were you proud of the work?
No, I wasn't proud of the work. I actually don't go back and watch that because it brings me to like a very tough place mentally, and a very dark place that I was in. So I don't go back and watch that BET Cypher appearance. I don't. And I started to spiral downward after that because I felt like I blew my one opportunity to be real successful in this industry. I felt like I let the devil trick me into caring about what other people thought as opposed to listening to that quiet, still internal voice that'll lead me in the direction of what God would want. And I felt like, dang, man, I'm a failure. I blew it. So, at a certain point, I started to contemplate, I wake up every morning and relive that moment of me spitting those bars, and I relive the thought process that went into that, and I don't like the way I feel when I wake up every day. So I started to come up with a solution, which at the time I thought it was like, you know what? I'm just gonna bow out gracefully, and man, if I take my own life, this is something to where I won't even have to feel this pain anymore, because I'm tired of waking up every day reliving this past dark moment. Every day, I don't want to think about this no more, but I wake up every day and I think about it, and I can't turn back the hands of time and do nothing different. And I felt so frustrated with myself, and I wasn't enjoying anything about the present, and I was stuck on the past. And that right there made me not want a future. So I contemplated killing myself, man. And I wasn't going to do it with no gun. I was going to do it to where, honestly, I was going to drive off a bridge, bro. I thought I planned this stuff out to a T. Like, I was spending a lot of alone time at the time. And I was like, yep, if I just do this, bro, that I'm in my car all the time. I was like, man, I just do this and it'll just all be over with. And I seriously contemplated that. So that was late 2014 into 2015. Contemplated it so many times. And I remember driving and my hands would be shaking on the wheel, because I was like, man, it could all be over with so quick if I just do this. Like, literally, it could all be over with so quick. And I had the bridge mapped out. It's in New Orleans. I knew exactly which bridge. Like, man, that stuff was crazy.
That's incredible, man. Like, a powerful story. And, thank God you're still here. What gave you the courage to make a different decision than the one you were contemplating in terms of suicide?
It wasn't courage, man. It wasn't courage at all. It was, man. It definitely wasn't courage, because it wasn't me. It was people around me who continued to love me even when I didn't feel worthy of being loved. I was like, man, my grandma, my grandpa, these people don't care about if I am a world famous rapper or not. Man, these people love David. And I see that every time I go around them. When I think about the students I used to teach who still keep in touch with me, man, they're not sitting here saying, oh man, you messed up on the BET Cypher. They sitting here looking up to me and proud that I never compromised what I believed in to make it in the rap game, and still made it. And when I started to see that, man, people around me love me for who I am, what happened was, bro, I realized that I got caught up in this achievement culture so much to where there's certain people that are not able to smell the flowers and truly ever be happy, because they're living for the next big Instagram announcement, the next big accomplishment that they can tell the world about. And that's problematic, because what happens when that doesn't come as quick as you think it should, or when you don't get the big promotion or the big elevation that you want? Does that mean that your life is worth nothing? No. And man, I had to rationalize these thoughts over time. So it wasn't even courage, D. It was me rationalizing the fact that I'm not a failure just because I had a moment where I felt like I could have done better. I failed in a moment, but I'm not a failure as a human being. And once that started to make sense to me, I started to tell myself that I failed in the moment, but I'm not a failure as a man. I failed in this moment, but I'm not a failure as a man. And I would look myself in the mirror and say that, and affirm myself that it's okay. No one is perfect except for Jesus. With that being said, every team that is still considered a great team has lost different games. It's okay. It's about how you bounce back from those losses. And I had to start to rationalize this stuff. It wasn't anything more than people not giving up on me and still loving me, even when I didn't feel worthy of being loved, and me rationalizing the fact that, man, perfection is not even, it's not even realistic. So it's okay. That's what gave me the courage to still want to live.
Yeah. You believe in something I very much believe in, which is that I'll never be a failure. I'll have failure moments, but I'm never failing over the long term. At some point in time, I'm coming up. I'm going to win, right?
Yes.
So you just can't lean into those moments. Brother, like, it's such a powerful story. And what I know is that there's so many other people these days that might be contemplating suicide or taking their life, what words of advice or words of wisdom would you have for them today?
I would tell them that suicide is never the answer, because I've been in your shoes, and in those moments, I didn't feel like I was good enough to be here. The truth is, none of us are good enough to be here, but that's how much God loves us, that he still has us here, despite our flaws and imperfections. When you realize that there's no failure, there's no letdown that can make you feel unworthy of living at that point, you realize that we are all a work in progress, and it's okay. You have so much more to be grateful for than you have to hang your head about. Mm-hmm. If you start to count your blessings one by one, you're going to run out of fingers pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what I would tell anybody. Like, when you choose to have an attitude of gratitude and you focus on what you love about yourself and what you have to be thankful for, at that point, you'll realize that taking your life isn't even an option.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's another thing in there that you said that I just love, which is when you chase religion or you see the Bible as just a book, you don't always truly understand God's love. When you truly understand that there's nothing you can do that he won't love you for, that there's nothing you can do that he's still not going to say, you my son, you okay. When you understand that he already knew you were going to do it and died, like once you start to process that love real, like if you really believe that love, I think for me, it can fundamentally like change the direction of your relationship with God.
Absolutely.
You know?
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Okay. So tell me how you pivot. How do you pivot from being suicidal one moment? What is the pivot actually? Like, where do you go next?
Yeah. So the pivot is, I got to stop trying to follow all the rules of this world. Whatever success looks like to the world, I'm not even caring about that anymore. I'm focused on my God-given gifts and how I can be most authentic in using them. And even if the world doesn't understand it, I'm at peace knowing that God is pleased. And I can't ever forget that that's my North Star. Is God pleased with this? That's the one question that matters with everything I do, right? As I start to think like that, I had just finished paying off my student loans, right? And I used a portion of my advance when I signed to RCA. I bought a few cars for some people around me who needed cars, right? Who didn't have transportation. So I don't care about cars. So I kept my same 1998 Honda Accord at the time. Yeah, I had a 98 Honda. I kept driving around in that, but I bought a few cars for people who needed them. And then I finished paying my student loans off, right? With that being said, I wanted to do a song about the joy I felt when I got out of student loan debt. And I did a song called Sallie Mae Back, because the company I took my loans out through is Sallie Mae, right? So I said, for those who doubted me, yeah, this is payback. And I've been on my grizzy, yeah, since way back. No, sir, and I don't drive a Maybach, but guess what I did? I finished paying Sallie Mae Back. Maybach, right? Do this song, and I play it for the record label. And they hate it. They say, man, this is corny. Ain't nobody trying to hear a song about paying student loans off. Like hip-hop.
Unconventional,
yeah, it's unconventional. So once again, I'm getting people in the world telling me, nah, this ain't good enough. Nah. I'm just hearing no from people. But I knew deep down, man, this song came from such a pure place that I'm going to put it out anyway. So because I was signed, I couldn't put it on streaming platforms, but I could put it on YouTube as like a for promo use only type of music video. Man, within 1 week of putting that song out, just like J50 and Weezy, that video blew the heck up on a level I had never experienced before. Next thing you know, I'm on CNN talking about this song. I'm in Time Magazine. I'm in Forbes. I'm on The Real, the daytime talk show. I'm on ESPN talking about my song, Sallie Mae Back. And I'm thrust to the forefront of this conversation about financial literacy inside of hip hop, which is something that you don't hear a lot of, right?
Yeah, never.
So that song,
we hear about how to spend.
There you go. We hear, exactly. That song even led to a partnership between myself and the organization Sallie Mae. And when we talk about how God can do things for you that the world can't, the same record label that I signed to that told me that song was lame and that song would never blow up, my partnership with Sallie Mae paid me 10 times what my record deal from RCA paid me. 10 times. I saw a tenfold increase by just saying, man, I'm going to follow my heart.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to focus on the direction I feel God leading me in. That's powerful, bro. That right there, that was the ultimate moment for me of just like, I didn't crack the code now. I didn't hack the system to see I don't need a record label. If they're going to continue to not believe in me, for the first time, I see that I don't need them anymore. And if anything, I love this feeling of going against the grain, doing what is authentic to me, what'll make God proud, and just watching God be God. You know, I think it's very important for people to know that it's not a manager that I have that got me here today. It's not a publicist that I have that hounded y'all down that got me here today. It's me following that same formula of D. Focus on what God wants you to do with your gifts and talents, and all the doors that are meant to open will open for you and for you alone. And that has been my Blackprint. That has been it. It's just focus on that. And look where it got me, man.
Yeah.
People see this though, and they see, man, this dude, who is Dee-1 signed to? He's sitting here on Revolt right now. What's Dee-1's team looking like? What's the secret? Artists be calling me. What's the secret, D? What's the secret? Man, it's just to keep God first, brother. It's just to keep God first and be authentic with how you use your gifts to make him proud. And they think I'm holding back some information from them. No, I'm actually giving you the cheat code. I'm actually giving you the Blackprint. You better listen.
Yeah. What's interesting is I'm very familiar with Christian rap. I actually was a Christian rapper as a young kid, 15, 16, 17, 18. Was dropping my own albums. And what I know is there's such a separation between secular rap and Christian rap. But somehow you found a way to kind of almost like blend those worlds, right? I don't know if that's the way that you would say it, but my question for you is like, how did you make that happen? How can you be so pro-God, but then winning and living in the worldview?
Yeah. It's not a business plan. It's not a calculated formula that I've come up with. It's literally me being myself. And I know that God has uniquely gifted me to be a bridge between worlds that normally don't interact, right? Once I recognize that I'm a bridge and I'm a disruptor, I recognize that I'm not going to ever fit into either one of those worlds fully. You know, so I'm not looking to fully fit in anywhere. I'm just looking to be myself and be that natural bridge that God has made me. So that's been beautiful, man. You got some artists who they try their hardest to say, I want to be the person that can be in Christian rap and be in mainstream. And they got a whole business plan and a whole team that's trying to strategically place them. And it don't work for them. It don't work because it don't feel authentic. And it don't feel real. And people ain't dumb. You feel me? For me, man, I've been being myself since day one, and it's gotten me here. And I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have a 10-year plan. I don't. I just, my plan is to put my faith in that man. You feel me? And I know what my gifts are, right? I like to call my gifts my slingshots. Everyone who's watching this, the story of David and Goliath is beautiful because David defeated Goliath, who everybody was afraid of. And David went against what the world was telling him. King Saul was like, David, you about to fight Goliath? Use my shield.
Take this armor.
Use my sword. Take this armor. And David was like, nah, King Saul, because I know myself. And I know what my gift is, which is this slingshot. That's so powerful, bro. Because metaphorically, the world will try to push their path and their vision for your life on you. But when you know yourself and you know what your slingshot is, and you commit to using that slingshot for the purpose God designed it for, man, that's how you defeat the Goliaths in your life. So I look at my life, I say, what's my Goliaths? I done dealt with depression before. I done dealt with being suicidal before. You heard me? Experienced poverty before. Dealt with racism, discrimination. Man, these are my Goliaths. How do I defeat them? I got to know my slingshots. What are my slingshots? Rapping, teaching, and speaking. Communicating, you know what I mean? Through rapping, teaching, and speaking. Let me use these gifts for the purpose God designed them for, and I can every time defeat the Goliaths that exist in my life.
100% agree. In fact, I have a tattoo on this arm of a wolf holding a slingshot. And it is my reminder that I never have to change. It doesn't matter how high I climb or where God to, like, I just have to know that, like, I have my slingshots, right? Trust everything that got me here, which to your point starts with God. And like everything will be okay.
And is it okay for us to tell people that there's a difference between godly ambition and selfish ambition?
Say more.
So Godly ambition is simply saying, God, I know that I'm going to be okay as long as I identify my gifts and I focus on using them to give you glory and make you proud.
Yep.
Wherever I end up, I'm at peace with that.
Yep.
Because that's where you wanted me to be. The difference between that and selfish ambition is, God, I've identified the gifts, but I know where I want to be. And even if you don't want me to be there, I'm going to force my way in those doors.
Yeah.
I'm going to force my way in those rooms. And God will be like, all right, you want it that bad? I'm going to let you get it. Just to realize that you ain't even happy with it now.
Yeah.
Just to realize that actually got you in a worse position than you were in the beginning because you pursued your will and not my will. You feel me? So that is what I think our generation struggles with, because so many creators and entrepreneurs are sitting back thinking of what they want as opposed to what does God want for me, by using the same gifts, but it's a difference between what I want and what God wants. And the ultimate win and the ultimate success story is a man or a woman who can turn the phrase "my will be done" into "thy will be done."
100%. The way I think about it and the way I process it is, when I was young, I tried to control everything. Like, I tried to control every outcome. I thought it was all up to me. And as you get to the top of control, like, I'm controlling more and more and more, what I realize is on the other side of control is actually surrender, right? And so no longer am I trying to control all the outcomes. I'm in complete surrender to God. And I just let him do what he does, right? Everything you just said. I know we got to get ready to get out of here, and I'm not trying to end this conversation, but I want you to talk about two things before we get out of here. One, can you just kind of talk to me about, you're an educator right now. You're doing work at Harvard. You said you're doing work at Tufts. What led you back into that education space? And what role is it playing in your purpose and your assignment right now?
Great question. So once I started surrendering my time and my talents to God, when these opportunities would come up, these aren't things that I could have predicted would be a part of my future. You feel me?
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part I want people to see, is when you surrender, you actually get things that you could have never even fathomed would have come your way. To have an opportunity to be a fellow at Harvard University, I didn't even know what a fellowship was prior to that. Then all of a sudden, I'm made aware and I get an opportunity to not only be a fellow at Harvard, but then these are the type of doors that open for me. I go to Tufts University to do a speaking engagement, a one-off, right? After doing that speaking engagement, they were so impressed not only with the speech, but with how I handled adversity. Because during the speaking engagement, someone hacked into the live stream and started to put racial slurs on the screen in this big auditorium in front of everybody. People were getting frazzled. People were getting frustrated. We're like, here we go, more racism, da-da-da-da. And the way I held the room together and the way that I had this aura and this spirit of love that overpowered that spirit of hatred in the room, they were so impressed with me handling that conflict, you know, in that way, that they said, this is the spirit that we need here on this campus more. And they offered me a teaching position.
They said, this is the spirit we need more on this campus.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Had nothing to do with my degrees.
Had
nothing to do with all of my accomplishments or my past experience being a professor. They were like, we need more of this spirit on this campus. So my spirit has opened doors for me that my skill set could never.
100%. All right, brother. Last question before we get out of here. Any final words, any final gems, any words of wisdom that you want to leave the audience with? Anything we didn't cover that you feel like it's imperative to make sure people hear before we close this out?
For sure. So I live by these three phrases. The first one is be real. The second one is be righteous. And the third one is be relevant. Let me break them down. To be real, it simply means your authentic self is the best, most handsome, prettiest version of who you can be, flaws and all. Be real. Embrace that stuff. Your story is your glory. Whatever you've been through, embrace all that, right? When you be real, it opens the door for you to be righteous, because you recognize that doing the right thing is right, doing the wrong thing is wrong. When you don't have an identity, though, you'll let culture impact you to where you out here thinking, well, negativity is being rewarded, so maybe I need to do more negative things and I'll get elevated or rewarded. But when you're real, it makes it easier to be righteous, because you understand that righteousness is actually what we were put here for, right? Then to be relevant, that's where the work comes in. Being real and being righteous means nothing if you're not relevant. Relevant means you have these slingshots or these gifts that you were blessed with. Now figure out how to use them to be relevant in a culture that may be dark and may be dim, and you are the light that was called to go illuminate that place. Go set it off in there. Because when you're relevant and you're going against the grain, then all of a sudden it makes people say, I want more of what I see in this person, because they didn't follow the rules. They didn't have to conform to the norms, but they are still relevant and they're a factor in this culture. When you're real righteous and relevant and you achieve the success that God meant for you, the last thing you have to do is know who to give the glory to. Because the world is going to say, D, you made it. You the CEO of Revolt. Right. Man, you amazing. Come to this luncheon. Come receive this award. Dee-1, you amazing. Come get honored here. Get this, get that Billboard chart and doing this, doing that. Man, when all that happens and when we recognize that I was nothing without the glory of God shining through me and shining upon my life, and that's who deserves all this praise and all this attention, that's when we have truly come full circle and fulfilled our purpose in this world.
King, this has been an incredible conversation. I reached out to you for a reason, just because I love your voice. I love your work. I love the role that you're playing in this world. I think even just today listening, you have given people who want to be disruptors a clear Blackprint, clear cheat codes on how to, because you are literally going up against the grain.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So thank you for coming to share your story. Thank you for dropping gems. Thank you for wisdom. I look forward personally just to continuing to build with you as a man and as a man of God.
Yes.
And just know that anytime you want to come back at Revolt, brother, the door is open.
Y'all heard that. Yeah, all three of them carols. Y'all heard that, man. This is what life is all about, man. Like brother, I'm so humbled right now, man. Thank you, brother. You are, man, you're disrupting this culture, man, and we need it. So
I appreciate you, King.
Yep.
Love. A fantastic interview with Dee-1. One of my favorite things about the Dee-1 interview is when he talked about how failure does not define you. He goes through the BET Cypher. He's not happy with the work. He's not happy with the output. It actually turns him to a space where he becomes suicidal. But it is his realization that that is a failure moment. He himself is not a failure. And I love this idea that we can't allow failure to define us. Another thing that Dee-1 spoke about was in his story about David and Goliath. This idea that we're always going to have to face giants, but the key to beating and defending our giants is not becoming somebody else, is not adapting somebody else's tools. It is knowing who you are on the inside, leaning into your own tools. He calls it your slingshot. You got to use your slingshot to take down your Goliaths. You can't put on Saul's armor. And so I love this idea that we can beat any giant as long as we are reliant on ourselves, who we are, and the tools and the talents that we bring to the table. And of course, it wouldn't be a fair recap if we didn't talk about how often Dee-1 talked about knowing your North Star and staying true to it. Every single time he talks, he's got clear priorities. In a world where there are no priorities, then anything can matter. But for him, he knows his North Star, and that becomes the center, the anchor for every single decision that he makes, so that he's not wavering, he's not waffling, he's anchored in who he is and what his North Star is.